Let's speak now to the Israeli government spokesman, David Mencer. Good evening. And when your allies say the suffering of civilians in Gaza has reached horrific new depths, and when aid agencies say mass starvation is spreading across Gaza, do you find it difficult to come on here to defend that?
Mark, let's start with the facts, not the fiction. In Gaza today, there's no famine caused by Israel. There is a man-made shortage, but it's been engineered by Hamas. That's the point. That's the end of the sentence, which you don't include. This suffering exists because Hamas made it so. Here are the facts. Here are the facts. Aid is flowing through the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Millions of meals are being delivered directly to civilians, and also coordinated shipments, food, medicine, raw materials, flour for bakeries and kitchens. Since May, over 4,400 aid trucks have entered Gaza, carrying flour and baby food, 2,500 tons of baby food, high-calorie nutrition for children, and vital medical supplies. Just yesterday alone, Mark, 2 million meals were handed out. In just weeks, that's 1.4 million packages.
So why then are more than 100 aid agencies?
Israel is facilitating this aid every single day. The problem is not Israel. The problem is Hamas. Hamas loots the trucks. It blocks its distribution. It weaponizes hunger and deliberately endangers its own people. And right now, there are over 700 aid trucks sitting inside Gaza waiting for the UN to collect them. 700 aid trucks are right now waiting for the incompetent UN to come and collect them.
Now, can I get a question in now?
If you let me answer them,
talking about 28 of your closest allies. We're talking about 100 aid agencies, not one, not two, all saying the same thing. Now, the UN are telling us there is no security for those trucks. Israel is not guaranteeing that desperate Palestinians will not be killed. That is what they are saying. Now, your military is occupying Gaza. It is your obligation to get food and medical supplies to the population. That is your obligation under international law. Otherwise, you are using hunger as a weapon of war.
Yeah, OK, Mark. So the truth matters here. This is where it is. There is no famine in Gaza. There is a famine of the truth, and Israel will not stop telling it. 87 million meals, 1.8 million tons of aid, which we've facilitated, aid getting in. Hamas loots, it starves its own people, and the world looks away. We open new routes to deliver food and medicine. Hamas blocks them and fires from them, and then cries to an all-too-willing Sky News, all too willing, to the cameras when civilians are hurt.
Why don't you provide security then? Why don't you provide security then for the UN to get those supplies into Gaza? You can't say, here's the point, you can't say on the one hand that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is now distributing the aid in Gaza, and then when it's a disaster with up to 1,000 people shot dead, you start blaming the UN. You start blaming the UN for causing hunger. I mean, it's simply nonsense.
Hamas. The media shows pictures of hungry people, but won't say the words that matter. Hamas stole their food. Hamas caused their suffering. Hamas turned charity into $1 billion racket. Just like mafia, they steal the aid, they sell it on the black market, and they're hoarding it for their own terrorist fighters, recruiting killers with that money. So when we have disrupted that pipeline of theft, Hamas saw Israel as a threat to their business model, not their people's salvation. So we've attacked the terrorists while Hamas put civilians in harm's way.
And when who is being shot dead? Who is being shot dead? Who is being shot dead when people go to get the food?
Points the finger at Israel instead of the killers. Mark, the tragedy in Gaza is Hamas's doing. They're behind these civilian deaths. They weaponize schools, hospitals, and they run $1 billion aid racket.
Right.
And you
Answer
in the
me this.
media
Answer me
are
this.
culpable because
Answer
you
me
repeat,
this.
uh,
All right.
bogus Hamas numbers. You
Right.
show the
Answer me this.
carnage, but you never say the words that matter. Hamas is responsible.
Right. Answer me this. Answer me this. Who is being shot at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation delivery system, distribution system? Who is being shot there? Are you saying 1,000 Hamas terrorists are being shot there? Because that's not the evidence we're getting. You say, why can't you help the UN with all the security they need to distribute the aid that is waiting at the border and use crowd control measures which are not shooting people dead? How about that?
My gosh, Mark, aren't you a clever man for coming up with these great aid distribution? Just share with me your qualifications for dealing with Gazans exactly. Was it in the newsroom at Sky News when you repeat Hamas talking points?
It's not.
Let's
It's
get
not
real,
a Hamas
Mark,
talking point. It's
Mark.
It's
Let's
what
get real
UN.
For a second.
It's not a
Let's
Hamas
get real
talking
for a second.
point.
Hamas designed this war. They designed this killing. They wanted their own people to get shot. They fire at us from crowds. They kill their own people. Just today, the IDF released footage of tunnels full of food of Hamas terrorists living it up, stuffing their faces with their portly frames while their own people suffer. It's time for you to get way. Why do you keep saying answer this like in a childish way? Are you a journalist or are you a fantasist?
Well, I'll tell you how it works.
Let's get real here for a second.
Let me tell you how it works.
Which is doing this.
I ask a question,
and we will
you
get
answer
the food
it,
in, but
and then it
Hamas
happens again.
must stop stealing it.
I'll tell you how it works. You're paid to answer the questions. I'm paid to ask them. Let me ask you another one. It's not just killing civilians in food queues, is it? It's not just the malnutrition. There's something else going on, which is the levelling of Gaza, the destruction of much residential property and infrastructure in Gaza. Why are you doing that? Because the mapping analysis shows now 92% of residential homes in Gaza are destroyed. Why is that happening?
This was a war which Hamas designed, Mark. They designed it this way, specifically to cause as much damage to their own people as possible. Now, from Israel's point of view, we regard any harm to civilians as a tragedy, while this terrorist organization of Hamas, it is their strategy. They have designed this war to harm their own people. They systematically violate international law. They endanger innocent people and they use them as human shields. And they can rely on Sky as night follows day to repeat the rhetoric. Israel, by contrast, makes every effort to prevent and minimize as much as possible harm to civilian population, including evacuating civilians from combat areas. Hamas and other terrorist organizations in Gaza, they actually work to maximize harm to
Here's the
civilians,
point. Here's the point.
People,
all this deflection. Here's the point.
Brutally.
Because this destruction of residential homes, 92% of Gaza, when that is coupled with your defense minister's plan to put 600,000 Palestinians in a camp they cannot leave unless they want to emigrate, it looks to many people, not only outside Israel, but also inside, as ethnic cleansing.
Look, we've got very clear objectives in this war. Israel will always act within international humanitarian law. That word is offensive, to be blunt. Israel is trying to defeat the terrorist organization and
what is the plan then?
Gaza,
what is the plan for the population of Gaza going forward? What is the plan for the population of Gaza going forward then? If it's not the plan set out by your defense minister and endorsed the other day by your prime minister?
No, there's a number of plans on the table, and none of them have been taken off the table. All options are open to us. The first thing is... So that plan is still on the table? That plan is still on the table? Mark, the first thing is we need to destroy this terrorist organization and get our hostages back. Yes, Mark, you haven't said that word. Our hostages. 20 of them are still alive. If Hamas released our hostages, laid down its arms, this conflict will be over in an instant. That maybe would upset you because that would mean the end of Hamas. But that is the future. That is the future. That is the good future for Gazans. It is a Gaza free from a terrorist organization. As for the future,
point. Let me just make a last point. If you are denying all what we say about starvation, what we say about the destruction in Gaza, what we say about the plan that is intended, why don't you let foreign journalists in? Why don't you allow us unfettered, unrestricted access to Gaza, as we get in most other war zones that I have been to, and many of the correspondents here have been to? Why are you not doing that?
I'm just wondering if you ever get tired of this this line of questioning. Firstly, listen to me, Mark. Listen to me. Firstly, because there's no shortage of these images coming out of Gaza. You see them all the time. So what is this nonsense? We are focused on getting our hostages out.
But you just told me it's all propaganda. You just told me it's all propaganda. Literally just told me that.
Hostages out. Why aren't you raising the plight of our hostages during this interview? Why aren't you putting pressure through your broadcasts on Hamas, the terrorist organization? That would bring the end to this war. We're opening routes to deliver more food and medicine. Hamas is blocking them, and they fire from them, and then they cry to the cameras of Sky when civilians are hurt.